again, you always have to assume that what you're saying is, or what you're writing, or what you're communicating, or what you're looking at is somehow observable to someone else that you may not always be able to observe on your end. History is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
The subject line is, I met my intern Steve that was previously monitoring me. My spouse and I got married while I was still completing my undergraduate degree. He was stationed in Japan on a ship that shall not be named. Said ship is quite old, but equipped with defensive weaponry intended for ballistic missiles. Let's just call it in the aughts, somewhere abouts. This ship was monitoring North Korea in that general area of the ocean, mostly on its own with some other friends. At the time, North Korea was amping up its weapons testing, firing missiles in a display of aggression. You might remember that Trump later went for peace talks that, quote, officially ended the Korean War. So the ship in question here was instrumental in preventing any missiles from striking the U.S. if North Korea decided to, say, try to hit nearby Guam or Hawaii. At the same time, I'd gotten weirdly obsessed with K-pop. Heard you there, BTS in particular, and needed a history cultural course to complete my undergrad degree. Why not take Korean studies? As part of my Korean history class, we had to watch hours and hours of North Korean propaganda on YouTube and other sites to understand and study the North and South Korean culture. You see where this is going? I think we do, Janky J. Meanwhile, my husband had been out at sea for nearly 3 years, and we hadn't seen each other after our very quick courthouse marriage about a year before this. So he did some rather sneaky and most definitely not allowed moves to secretly call me in the depths of the night while his ship was in the middle of the ocean. We knew that our phone calls would most likely be intercepted by both the U.S. government, China, and any other nearby country, so we never spoke about anything related to the military, etc. I just said, I miss you, I love you, bye, etc. He would also sneak an email to me every once in a while. The ship did not have internet access. He had to use a specific, restricted computer to send the email. Again, probably not allowed. As my semester goes on, I start to notice that our internet is slow and acting strange and crashing, particularly when I tried to watch the North Korean propaganda I needed for my class. I don't know why, but we watched so much of it. Though we contacted the internet company and they sent a tech out to check it, they said it was nothing wrong on their end. Then I noticed that my camera light for my laptop was always on, no matter what. This is a time before Zoom and such as well. My laptop was old, so I didn't think much of it. Other strange things via our internet occur, and my husband actually joked that my IP address was being monitored by the DoD in an email. He's not part of any form of intelligence, etc., so he wouldn't have actually known. I went to some site on Google, and I don't know if this site was reputable, but they claimed that it would tell you if you were being monitored, and DoD popped up. Honestly, I shrugged it off and went about my business. I wasn't doing anything wrong anyway. Fast forward to early, somewhere in the aughts, I graduated and moved out to a city in Japan, a small city. We were living in a cute Japanese house a few miles off the base, and the base was rather small, with a general population of around 1,000 people, depending on what ships were in harbor. And like most small towns, most people knew each other. There's a strip of bars right off the base that all the military folks hang out at after work. While most ships claimed a particular bar as their own, there were a few bars that were fair game for anyone. I honestly don't remember the name of said bar, but everyone knew that their Long Island iced teas were 99% liquor and also 300 yen, or $3. There were old car seats for chairs. There was Japanese screamo punk music blasting. It was run by an attractive and feisty woman that wouldn't hesitate to hit you with a pool cue if you misbehaved. I love this. So here's the kicker. Anyway, during a long drunken night, my spouse and I are chatting up a group of sailors when one points at me and exclaims, "I know you." But I didn't know him. He went on to explain that he monitored me in my internet usage because they thought I was a North Korean sympathizer with connections to said ship, in charge of watching North Korea at the time. And that it would be dangerous if I had convinced someone on the ship to, I don't know, let a missile slip through or something along those lines. I got the impression that said person was blackout drunk, but he was most definitely recalling things from my search history and personal emails that no one else would ever have known about, because obviously I didn't believe him at first and questioned him on details, including which K-dramas I've been watching. He had strong opinions that I was watching very good ones. He talked to me like I was an old friend, and I got the impression that they were no longer monitoring me because he was curious as to what I've been up to lately and how I ended up in Japan. He went on to laugh about how I was only watching those propaganda videos because of a college course I was taking. He agreed that that made a lot of sense and would, quote, add it to my profile, whatever that means. Over the next year of me living there, I didn't see the guy again, though people in the military move quite a lot, and I didn't spend much time at those Navy bars. I always wonder what kind of information they have on me and where/if it is kept. Guess I'll never know. I really doubt they continue to monitor me, as it was very situational, and in hindsight, I find it really funny. Who knows? Maybe you'll run into your intern, Steve, at a bar one day. Best, Janky J. I find this like the hook at the end of a ghost story. Guys, this is chilling stuff to me. I don't know how you took it, but it gives me the creeps in a very real way.
Well, yeah, it reminds you that your relationships are really important, right? Over the years when we've talked about surveillance that's occurring even on a metadata level from, the early aughts, it was often about correspondence between you, maybe whoever you are, probably in the U.S., and somebody else who is not in the U.S., right? Or
yes.
you, a non-military person, and someone you're in a relationship with who is within the military of some country. That's often where you're going to get a lot of that surveillance. I don't know. It's certainly eerie.
What are the chances?
And it's also, it gives us a, without giving too many specifics away, Janky, as requested, we're hoping to do our best to preserve some anonymity here. But without getting into those specifics, this is a somewhat extraordinary case because of your closeness to the physical location of where the people monitoring you were based. So that's not going to happen for most people. And as you pointed out beautifully, Matt, we've discussed this at length in the past. They're looking at relationships. So if you want to trust, of all voices out there on the internet, you could trust me with this one. The surveillance stuff is not specifically just like looking at your search history one time, right? Because there are countless students, there are countless professionals, there are countless, let's just be honest about it, folks, there are countless people who are like stoned at 3 a.m. and get really interested in something very specific that looks sketchy and search history. But when you are, what tipped you, Janky, outside of automated surveillance, like Hoover vacuum level surveillance that happens to everybody, what tipped you is the communication you were having with a military asset. And I'll just keep it very vague when I say asset there. That is what got the attention of a human intern, Steve.
And also the repeated viewing of propaganda videos paired with that.
Okay, but if this intern, Steve, was aware of that search history and all of the shows that were being viewed on whatever device Janky J was using, right? That's a lot of information you've got. How was the piece of information missing that Janky was enrolled in classes? Because there's online portals.
They didn't talk about any specifics
in these years. Yeah, but there's online portals in these years, and they're looking at her internet history.
I see what you're saying. You're right. Yeah, there would be other evidence of the.
Well, that's
a good point.
Yeah, I've got the answer to that one, Matt. So the thing is that trying to say this diplomatically. I want to be careful, but there is a known pipeline, an established pipeline between students in different countries and in different fields and tradecraft, spycraft, espionage, whatever you want to call it, the spooky stuff, right? The fun stuff. So that's why, for example, you will have people in grad school who get directly tapped into working for Uncle Sam's intelligence apparatus. The same thing can happen. Like, a lot of foreign students can sometimes be under suspicion, perhaps unfairly, because of their country of origin. Okay, and like that's why there are things like obviously there are U.S. intelligence assets right now who are surveilling stuff like the Confucius Institutes. Do you know what those are, guys? Confucius Institutes? Okay. Yeah. They're soft power Chinese culture centers. Yeah, in the U.S. especially, and there is for a very long time there has been a known pipeline with intelligence or counterintelligence activities and students. They're perfect for a lot of they have a lot of the ingredients you want for a good operation, and that's like I don't know. I guess we don't think about it as often in the United States, but for another example, look at Latin America. The Latin America, the theater of Latin America is full of examples of university students who may have been aided by a foreign power that wanted to, topple a regime or wanted to move a certain policy along. Stuff gets dirty. Stuff gets muddy. So
well, yeah, the U.S. government learned a lot from SDS and stuff from Vietnam War era.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right. And maybe my answer is too long here, but this, I think, is a pretty clear answer to why they didn't just say, oh, it's a kid who is maybe in a Korean studies class or a Korean history class, because, if anything, oddly enough, as counterintuitive as that may sound, seeing that education history may have just exacerbated the concern rather than reducing it.